see a yummy, delicious menu on the screen. Now, why are we talking about food when we are talking about the representation of geographical features? Well, they too have similar characteristics. We understood in our previous lesson that the representation of geographical features or any physical feature present on the Earth's surface becomes much more easier with the help of topographical maps. So topographical maps are acute representation of physical features that appear on the Earth's surface. Now, just like the menu on the screen that helps us understand what a restaurant could avail us with when we are hungry, similarly, if we are working on a given geographical area, there are certain signs and symbols that help us understand what are present on that given geographical area, thus making our study more easy. So, in a menu, just like there are different sections given to help us understand what exactly the delicacy consists of, similarly, there is a list of conventional signs and symbols that help us represent different physical features on the map that stand for the actual physical features on the ground. So let us see how conventional signs and symbols make map reading easier. Now take a look at this portion of a topographical map. We see that all the things on the given plot has been named, be it the forest, the lake, the river, the sea, the bridge in the metal road or the cart track. Everything has been labeled. Now take a look at another map. So this is the same plot but without the names. Don't you think this is much more neat and more convenient to read? Yes, it is. Same happens with a topographical map. So the signs and symbols given on this map helps us understand the map better, and it also keeps the map neat. Now how do we know which symbol represents which physical feature? This becomes possible with the list of conventional signs and symbols. Now these conventional signs and symbols are not one but many, which makes it more easier and convenient to read any topographical map. Let us look at some of the most important conventional signs and symbols. Starting with metal roads. So metal roads, as you can see here, are two parallelly drawn lines, and these are usually colored in red. So such symbols on the topographical map denotes a road that is metalled, which means that it is a proper road and it helps in connecting places at a very long distance. Coming to another symbol, that is a symbol of an unmetalled road. Now an unmetalled road would look somewhat like this. Again, an additional feature to this existing physical feature would be a bridge. So to denote a bridge in an unmetalled road, we would take the help of this symbol. Coming to another symbol here, we have causeway. So a causeway could be of two types. It could either contain a ford or a ferry, and these could be represented as this or this. Now what does blue lines of such curvy shape would denote? Such a symbol on the topographical map will denote a river bank. So anywhere on the topographical map, if you see such a symbol, you know that it is talking about a river bank that exists in that area. Now what does these numbers signify right beside the river bank? They tell us about the elevation of these river banks. For example, 3 to 6 meters, this could be denoted by a symbol like this, which means that the river banks are at a steep of 3 to 6 meters. Now talking about rock-filled dams. Now, rock-filled dams could be denoted as this. So you see, there is a symbol for every physical feature that might appear on any given geographical area. Some other conventional signs could include a symbol like this. Now, what does a blue plus sign indicate? It indicates a spring. A spring means a small opening near the surface of the earth or in a mountain or in a plateau from where water could escape. So, a plus blue sign indicates a spring. On the other hand, such a symbol on the topographical map indicates a broken ground. That is, the ground is not healthy for cultivation of crops and it is broken. So there is a risk of traveling over such area. Moving on to another important symbol, that is a symbol of a railway station. So if you want to travel to any place and you have a topographical map, you will exactly know from where you could get a train to travel to any distance that you desire. So such a symbol on the map written with a capital letter of R and S would indicate the presence of a railway station. Other than that, such lines would indicate a mineral line and these would indicate contours. Contours means it helps us understand the presence of any physical feature that has a certain elevation, right? Maybe a mountain, a plateau, or also a valley. Here comes a set of quite interesting physical features and they are more commonly found on the topographical map. Now, these include huts that might be permanent or not permanent, that is temporary. So, red color squares that are filled with color are permanent huts, while if the red color squares are empty, it means they are temporary huts. On the other hand, we also have such cross signs with red. That indicates a settlement that is deserted. That is where the regions are very sparsely populated. Now, important religious symbols could be the presence of a temple, of a church, of a mosque, of an idgah, and so on. We also have symbols of such vegetation and each indicates a certain type. For example, the first one here indicates a palm tree. We also have such bold lines with dots in between them. Such lines indicate international boundaries. So you see, these conventional signs and symbols help us point out some very important physical features, or rather all the physical features that might exist in any given geographical area. So far, we took a look at so many symbols and different small drawings that are present on the topographical map and each represent a certain physical feature. Now, what about these written alphabetical symbols? Each of them also have a certain significance. For example, the 200 written here with a triangular empty shape indicates a height, a triangulated height. That is a height of a certain elevated area that has been measured statistically. Moving on to another important symbol, that is PO. Now, what does PO indicate? It means post office. And what does PTO indicate? Means the presence of post office and telegraph office. That is a combined office of post office and telegraph office. Another such conventional sign and symbol could be seen in such bold abbreviations such as KIKRI as given in this particular list of conventional signs and symbols. These abbreviations usually indicate the presence of any administrative locality or tribal. So these were the list of conventional signs and symbols that are more commonly seen and used on any topographical map. These help in the reading of these maps in a more easier way, and they also help in keeping the map neat. Now, if you want to take a look at all the conventional signs and symbols, you can simply pause the video and take a look at the list of all the conventional signs and symbols that we just saw. And you can simply note them down on your notebook. So that is how different signs and symbols are represented on a topographical map. And these are conventional signs and symbols. In our previous lesson, we understood why they are known as conventional signs and symbols. This is only because to avoid any sort of confusion, so that a standard form of representation could be accepted and followed across the globe. Now, taking a look at this plot of a given geographical area. Now, this portion of the topographical map tells us a lot about the given geographical area. Let's use some signs and symbols that we just learned to understand the different physical features present in this area. We see that this portion of the map is completely covered by red color settlements. Now, these red color settlements tells us that they are nucleated settlements. That only tells us that this portion of the given geographical area has a high population density. Now, this high population density is also influenced by certain factors. That is the availability of a good transport system. We see that throughout the given plot, there are various metal roads. Now, a good transport system helps or facilitates the growth of any settlement. And here, this particular settlement is also influenced by the presence of good network system. Besides that, we see that there are many temples in these areas. This tells us that the densely populated area also worships and visits a lot of temples here. So there is a presence of lot of temples in this densely populated area. A similar thing we get to see in this area, where we also have mosque, church and temples. And here also we have a nucleated settlement. On the other hand, we also see some linear settlements along the metal roads. Besides that, we see that there are certain vegetation present across the area. That tells us that there is no one particular forested area, but there is presence of different trees that are sparsely distributed. So we see that there are a lot of things that are present on this given geographical area, and we are able to understand or read this geographical area only with the help of these conventional signs and symbols. Now let us move on to another important factor related to topographical map, or the study of the representation of geographical features, and that is scale. Now, scale is a very important factor or a very important tool that helps us draw and understand a given map. So what exactly is a scale and how do we define it? So scale helps us represent a ratio. And what is this ratio accounting for? Now, this ratio is a ratio between the real world and the size in units on the maps. What does this mean? Say, for example, I want to study a particular given geographical area. Take, for example, the area is about 100 kilometers square. 100 kilometers square with a length of 10 kilometers. That means the given geographical area with a length of 10 kilometers has an area of 10 kilometers square. Now, can we draw the 10 kilometers square geographical area on a map? Is it possible? No. That is where a scale is used. So, a scale helps us represent an area on the real ground, that too on a map. And how do we do this? Now, scales are of three different types. All of them serve the same purpose, but they are just represented in different manners. Taking a look at the first scale. So, the first scale tells us about the statement or verbal scale. Now, according to this verbal scale, it says that 1 inch to 1 mile. What does that mean? This only means that 1 inch on the map, on the topographical map, is equal to 1 mile on the actual ground. So, 1 mile on the actual ground will be equal to 1 inch on the map, right? Now, this is what is known as a statement or verbal scale. Let's move on to another type of scale. Here we are talking about the graphical scale. Now, the graphical scale is represented in a scale or ruler form. So, we see that the markings on the scale is represented to the actual area on the Earth's surface. Now, here it reads that the map scale is 1 inch to 1.576 miles. That is, every 1 inch on the topographical map will be equal to 1.576 miles on the real ground. Finally, we come to the most commonly used and a very important scale, that is the representative fraction. So, the representative fraction is the distance on the map to the distance on the actual ground. It is also known as the RF value. Now, it is usually represented as a ratio. Now, here we have an example of 1:1 lakh. What does this mean? Let's go back to the similar example where we have to study an area of 10 kilometers square on the real ground. Now, how do we do that on a topographical map? Let's take 10 centimeter on the map to be equal to 10 kilometer on the ground. That only means that 1 centimeter on the map will also be equal to 1 kilometer on the ground. Now, we know that 1 kilometer is equal to 1000 meters and 1000 meters is equal to 1 lakh centimeter. So, in other words, we can say that 1 centimeter on the map will be equal to 1 lakh centimeter on the real ground. So, 1 centimeter on the map will be equal to 1 lakh centimeter on the real ground. And that is where the ratio of 1:1 lakh comes into being. This is known as representative fraction or the RF value. Now, here we have a scale which represents an RF value. Now, these scales usually have a contour interval and they also have a source. This scale has been sourced from the National Geodetic Vertical Datum of 1929. Now, the representative fraction or the RF value again could be explained or defined as the distance on the map to the distance on the ground. In our previous example also, we saw this particular ratio. Besides these, some other commonly used representative fraction or RF values are 1:50,000 or 1:24,000, right? Which only means that 1 centimeter on the map will be equal to 24,000 centimeters on the real ground, and the same goes for this RF value. So, representative fraction is one of the most important and commonly used scales on any topographical map. Now, let us go back to a feature that we already learnt in our previous lesson. We learnt about the grid lines. We understood the grid lines are vertically and horizontally drawn lines on the topographical map, and they are usually represented in red color. So, to define grid lines, we could say that they are small squares drawn by intersection of lines that move horizontally and vertically across the map. So, all these red lines that move horizontally and vertically forming small squares are called grid lines. Now, what exactly is the significance of these grid lines? Now, these grid lines help us study a particular area on a given plot of study. Now, how is that? So, to understand that, let us learn about two other important features on the topographical map. Now, here we have the horizontal lines that run from south to north on a topographical map. These horizontal lines are called northings. So, these horizontal lines that move upwards and their value increases as they move towards the north, they are known as northings. So, northings are nothing but horizontal lines whose numerical value increases from south to north. So, on this given plot, we see that as the horizontal lines are moving up, their value increases. A similar thing happens with the vertical lines. So before we proceed with our lesson, could you help me answer this simple question? What are the horizontal lines whose value increases from south to north known as on a topographical map? Are they known as eastings or northings or grid lines? Yes, I think you have already guessed the right answer, and that is they are known as northings. So northings are horizontal lines whose value increases as they move from south to north. Now similarly, there are vertical lines that move from west to east. Now as they move from west to east or as they proceed towards the east, their numerical value also increases. So, the vertical lines whose numerical value increases from west to east are known as eastings. As we can see here in the given plot, that as these are moving towards the east, their numerical value has increased. Now, how do they play a role in studying a given geographical area? Say, for example, we want to study this particular area. Now, what do we do for that? We take a help of the grid reference. Now, what is a grid reference? So, a grid reference is generally used to study a particular unit or cell of any given geographical area. So, here we were talking about this particular unit or cell, and I would want to study this particular plot. Now to do that, I have to know the exact location of this plot. Now just like longitudes and latitudes that are present on a regular map help us locate certain places accurately, similarly the northings and eastings on the topographical map also help us locate places accurately. And these together are known as grid reference. So, what would be the grid reference of this particular plot? Now, to write a grid reference, we always start from the easting. According to the easting, it says that the given plot has started from 41. And for the northings, it is 28. So, the grid reference could be written as 4128. Where we first write the eastings and then we write the northings. This is how any grid reference is written. So if you are asked to locate any particular thing on a given plot of area, you'd be easily able to do that with the help of grid reference. Now can you tell me what will be the grid reference of this particular area? Now, as per what we learnt now, we will first consider the easting. So, the easting says that the grid reference for this will start with 42. And as per the northings, it will be 27. So, what will be the grid reference for this area? It would be 4227. So, grid reference is usually called out as 4227. So now let us study the topographical map with more details and more understanding. So far we learnt about the scale, the grid reference and the importance of the signs and symbols. So in this particular given area, we need to measure the distance between two places on the given geographical area with the help of straight and curved scale. Now what does this mean? As per this, we have to find out the direct distance from Panthavara to Rampura in kilometers. Now in this map, here is Panthavara and here is Rampura. How do we find the direct distance between these two places? We will see that in our next slide. The other question says that we also need to find the indirect distance between Panthavara and Kachavada in meters. Now again, Panthavara is here while Kachavada is here. Now how do we find the indirect difference between them? Let's see. So let's see how do we find out the direct and indirect distance between the given places. Before we do that, we also need to keep in mind the scale of the given topographical map. As per this map, it says that the scale is 2 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer. So every 2 centimeter distance on this topographical map will be equal to 1 kilometer on the actual ground. Now let us see how do we find out the distances. So to find the direct distance between Panthavada and Rampura, we place a scale. So we place the 0 mark of the scale at Panthavada and then we align it with Rampura. We see that the measurement is 4 centimeter. So now what will be the direct distance between Rampura and Panthavada on the actual ground? Well, let's calculate. So on the map, the direct distance with the help of a scale was 4 centimeter. Now what do we know? We know that the scale of the topographical map is 2 centimeter equal to 1 kilometer. So on the actual ground, the distance between Rampura and Panthavada would be 4 centimeter divided by 2, that is 2 kilometers. So the direct distance between Panthavada and Rampura with the help of a scale would be 2 kilometers on the actual ground. Let's take a look at another question. Now to find the indirect distance between Panthavada and Kachavada, we take the help of a single thread. This single thread is placed on the cart track that is between them. After that, we take the thread and place near a scale. We saw that the measurement came up to 12 centimeter. So 12 centimeter on the map was the indirect distance between Panthavada and Kachavada. So on the map, the indirect distance was 12 centimeter. However, again taking a look at the scale of the topographical map, we know that the scale says 2 centimeter on the map is equal to 1 kilometer on the actual ground, which only means that the indirect distance between Panthavada and Kachavada on the actual ground would be 12 centimeter divided by 2, and that is 6 kilometers. So the indirect distance between Kachavada and Panthavada is 6 kilometers on the actual ground. So this is how you calculate the direct and indirect distance between places given on the topographical map, and hence know their actual distance on the ground. However, the question is not complete here. Here we are to find the distance between these two places in meters. So what does 6 kilometer will be in meters? We know that 1 kilometer is equals to 1000 meters. So 6 kilometers will be equal to 6 into 1000, that is 6000 meters. So Kachavada is 6000 meters away from Panthavada if we take the indirect distance. And that is how we measure the direct and indirect distance between places on a given geographical area. Let's move on to talk about another important factor here, that is the use of magnetic compass. Now, magnetic compass has played an important role since the ancient times. It can be dated back to the age of discovery, where European explorers explored the entire world with long, tiring voyages for months with the help of these magnetic compass. Now, magnetic compass always aligns itself to the geographic north. This is what helps different people to locate places and carry on with their trips. So, a magnetic compass on a topographical map also is an important tool while dealing with Earth's geographical features. And the needle on the compass always points northwards. So, to read a topographical map, we definitely need the help of a magnetic compass. So in this lesson, we were able to understand how there are different key factors that play an important role in the study or in the representation of geographical features, where we understood how scale, grid lines, grid reference, magnetic compass, and conventional signs and symbols are important tools in the study of any topographical map. So topographical maps are an acute representation of physical features that appear on the Earth's surface. However, topographical maps also have certain limitations that we need to keep in mind. So these limitations can be listed down as follows. First, talking about the size. So they are mostly large and bulky, so carrying them everywhere could not be that easy, or it could be inconvenient. Because of their large bulky size, taking them or carrying them everywhere becomes very difficult. So this is an important limitation of a topographical map. Next is the static nature of the topographical map. So these maps are usually dated. So they may not give us the exact information about the area of study. These maps are drawn to study a geographical area, and they are done within a certain period of time. Now, as these are dated, they might not give the exact information about the same place some years later, because development is inevitable and there might be a change in the existing physical features on that same area. Finally, another limitation of the map is about exactness. So, topo sheets might fail to specify the true nature of forested area. Now, they might help us point out a forested area in a given geographical area, but they might not tell or they might not specify whether the forested area is thick, bushy, or thorny, right? So they will not help us prepare rightly for the forested area that is present in that region. So these were certain limitations of the topographical map. In this lesson, we were able to understand how conventional signs and symbols, the use of scales, grid reference, and magnetic compass is very important in the study of topographical maps. They play a key role in the study of these maps, and these topographical maps, though have certain limitations, however, play a very important role in the study of the different physical features that appear on the Earth's surface. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at deltastep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock test. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.